All the marble and all the gold in the world cannot plaster over the fact that the American people, by and large, are furious at Donald Trump over his failure to tackle their number one issue, the rising cost of everything. Watch what happens when reality comes to bite Donald Trump in the you-know-what during an interview on Fox News, of all places. Watch.
I know you've been all over the affordability issue today and for the last several months. Eggs, gas, dinner costs for Thanksgiving way down. But other things, as you noted, have gone up. Beef, coffee,
they're gonna come
auto
down very
repairs.
shortly.
Is this a voter perception issue of the economy, or is there more that needs to be done by Republicans on Capitol Hill, or done in terms of policy?
More than anything else, it's a con job by the Democrats.
Laura Ingram's a lot of things, but even Laura Ingraham knew the answer to the question she asked. And Trump could shush her all he wants. He did. But rising prices isn't a con job cooked up by Democrats, and Laura Ingraham knows that. The price of beef is up 14.2%. The price of coffee is up 15.3%. CNN reports this, quote, prices increased from January to September in 5 of the 6 overarching groups of grocery prices tracked by the federal government's Consumer Price Index. Donald Trump has never, ever, ever had a grasp of any of the facts, but particularly those around the cost of things for normal people, or even the realities of the way normal Americans live. Here's what happened when Laura Ingraham brought up some of the pushback to an idea floated by Donald Trump recently. It's the idea of a 50-year fixed mortgage.
A significant MAGA backlash, calling it a giveaway to the banks and simply prolonging the time it would take for Americans to own a home outright. Is that really a good idea?
It's not even a big deal. I mean, you know, you go from 40 to 50 years, and what it means is you pay.
Yeah. Now, tell me you've never applied for a mortgage without telling me you've never applied for a mortgage. His inability to even get the 30-year fix thing of the answer right, you go from 40 to 50, is a real slip of the mask. And it reflects this yawning gap now that everybody knows about, even his base, between Donald Trump and every other living American. And it's becoming more and more of a liability by the day. On the same day that food assistance was set to expire for more than 40 million Americans, Donald Trump posted these pictures, basically of his DIY reno. Look what I did. I renovated the bathroom and the Lincoln bedroom. It's now covered in statuary marble instead of its historic design. Hours after that, he held an actual Great Gatsby-themed party. This is not some smear that the Democrats put on his party. It was actually called A Little Party Never Killed Nobody and had a Great Gatsby theme. That happened as 1.4 million federal workers went without a paycheck. And while that was happening, Donald Trump continued bulldozing and trying to build his giant gilded ballroom constructed on top of the now demolished East Wing, a priceless part of America's collective history. That record is to say nothing of the actual gilding of the Oval Office and other rooms at the White House with gold, at a time when 77% of all Americans, regardless of who they voted for, say they're stressed out about their finances and their economic insecurity. But Donald Trump and his crew of uber-wealthy cabinet officials and billionaire tech bros keep telling us and showing us that they couldn't give a rat's behind that the American people are screaming at the top of their lungs about their economic anxiety. They make clear over and over and over again that they don't care. This is a president who posts images of himself wearing a gold crown. He's done it multiple times. These are not things made up by his political detractors. These are images he concocts or grabs onto and then posts himself. He likes them and wants us to see him in a crown, surrounded by gold, renovating bathrooms in the White House after he demolishes the East Wing to build a massive ballroom for himself and says out loud, this is our, quote, top priority. And his Treasury Secretary, wow, this is what a $600 million Treasury Secretary gets you politically.
So do you believe the idea that voters are saying affordability is a problem for me is a con job?
I believe even this morning you had two people come on and say, well, I look at the price at the pump and I know costs are up. Well, gasoline's down. So that is a con job. And I think that's what's frustrating.
So you don't believe that all the people who went to vote last Tuesday on the issue of affordability, my rent's too high, I can't afford to buy a house, groceries are too expensive, you think they're just misperceiving what's happening in their lives?
I think that that we inherited an affordability crisis.
Does anyone think Scott Bessent has ever pumped gas? A wildly out of touch Donald Trump and cabinet trying and failing to gaslight the American people on the cost of living when it comes to his failure after 10 months in addressing the rising cost of living is where we start today. New York Times political reporter Nick Corsonati is back. Also joining us, MSNBC political analyst, host of the Bulwark podcast, Tim Miller is back, and president of Media Matters, Angelo Carusone is back as well. Tim Miller, I'm going to start with you. I worked for the Bush family. One of the most iconic sort of images or instances of a president who sort of lost touch of the price of things and the modern way that people lived was George H.W. Bush with the grocery scanner. For my time in politics and now as the person who does all the grocery shopping in my house, I always know how much a gallon of milk is, of eggs, bread. Most politicians have people around them that make sure they know how much a gallon of milk, a dozen eggs, a loaf of bread, meat, steak, those things cost. Clearly, Donald Trump doesn't know how much any of those things cost. I'm sure he's never been inside a grocery store unless he wanted to knock it down and stick something tacky there. But no one around him has told him that these things matter to literally everybody else in the country. What do you make of what we're seeing of his inner circle first?
Yeah, I think they're in a bad place. That's a wonderful intro. I just have two minor nits that I need to
Please edit away.
Before I answer your question, is that okay? I'm pretty sure George H.W. Bush got a raw deal on the grocery scanner thing. It's been a while since I watched that, but I gotta go and Google it. Number two, the Great Gatsby party. There were two parties. Do you know this? After the Great Gatsby party, they did a truffle and opera party.
Oh, there was an after party?
I think it was the next day or later the next week or something. I looked at the menu for the truffle and opera party. They had a truffle dauphinois on the menu. I don't know what that is. Maybe some of the viewers who are fancier than me do. But so it's just many. They're doing many fancy parties down there while this is happening. And look, who he's hanging out with down there is well represented by Scott Bessent in that video. Getting back to your question about his inner circle, right? And his inner circle right now is mostly extremely rich people who, at least in some of the cases with Howard Lutnick and Steve Witkoff and others, have family members who are in on the Trump family grift. So you have extremely rich people that are in on the grift and the corruption as part of the inner circle. And then you have like wild-eyed ideologues, like Stephen Miller. And that's it. That's who's there. Like that's who he's got around him now. And so I don't think it's that surprising that this stuff isn't breaking through to him. Obviously, he has always been out of touch, but there was something to be said for, kind of the rally stuff that he was doing in a while. Like he had this kind of call and response, like ongoing focus group with people that, sort of helped, drive his little lizard instinct towards what, the types of people that showed up to those rallies at least cared about. He's not getting any of that feedback now. He's at Mar-a-Lago with cougars on the pool deck, and he's got billionaires in his cabinet. Like, that's who he's talking to. And it's not surprising that he does that interview with Laura Ingraham, and he doesn't just say the obvious thing that politicians say in this moment, which is, we're trying to deal with this. Obviously, we understand people are suffering. Like, we have a bunch of plans. Here's our plan, A, B, and C. They don't have any plans. Like, it's not just that they're out of touch. They're out of touch with people's affordability issues, and they don't have any proposals to deal with it. They're not even trying to deal with it. And I think that is, the main political issue that he faces over the next year.
So you edited me. I'm just going to underline something you just said. What was it? Cougars on the pool deck and billionaires in the cabinet. I feel like that's like an album title or a Netflix series or a book title or something I want to see more of.
Show me the lie.
I love it. Let me ask you, Angela, you introduced this theory, this concept I've been obsessed with since you said it, this idea of narrative dominance. And the only thing that was going to knock him off of that was always going to be a reality more compelling or more with more magnetic pull, right, than the dominant narrative, or a politician. It seems that the latter hasn't really emerged, but the first may have. How do you see this moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think, he certainly lost narrative dominance. And there are a lot of reasons for that, but a couple metrics. So one, we shouldn't discount the fact that this moment is happening after months of the Epstein stuff. And why that matters is that it was really for the first time his own supporters, the people that had been percolating and simmering and pickled in the narrative that he had been telling, started to think for a second, well, wait a minute, maybe this guy's not going to be straight with us all the time. And even if they didn't flip on him, it at least created some space where they'd be willing to entertain the possibility that, that maybe their eyes and their experiences weren't lying to them and were more honest than what Trump was telling them was the case. So then you sort of fast forward to where we are now, and one of the metrics for it, the other metric is the vibes. And the vibes in the right-wing media are not good right now. They're just not. There isn't a cohesive, coherent story. You see all these random sort of like grab bags and buffets of nonsensical ideas and proposals or reasons why things feel the way they do. Even Steve Bannon, who tends to have the most cogent, coherent argument for Trumpism and what's happening, he's saying Trump has been nothing but focus on affordability. He's the guy who's focused on it all the time. Gives no examples of that except to say the most important thing he can do right now is deport more people in high-skilled jobs to help give some people in their late 20s and 30s with college debt jobs here. I mean, that's the best that they've come up with, and now this 50-year mortgage thing. So, the vibes there aren't great, and then you sort of then look at what's projecting on the future, and you have a guy that's pointing out, even when Laura Ingraham is throwing him a bone, all the gold that's on his wall, all the parties that Tim was referring to before. And that's the other piece of this narrative. One of the stories that Trump has always told these people is that just because I'm a billionaire that has my plane and my name on buildings, I'm just like you.